Well, one of the biggest complaints I hear from people these days about their financial lives is how much it costs to buy food, whether that's at the grocery store or going out to eat or wherever. Well, we've done some work to help you in that area. Couple of things. First of all, today I'm talking with Katie Garrett, who is a functional medicine nutritionist. She's going to walk us through some strategies, how to think about your grocery budget, how to plan your meals, and how to save money without sacrificing your health. That's one thing. The second thing is in the show notes below, you can find this brochure that we put together called Eat Smart, Spend Less. Some great resources in there, both some facts for you, as well as some tools to help you at the grocery store and as you plan your meals. Let us know what questions you have. We'll talk to you soon. Well, Katie, thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So you are a functional medicine nutritionist. What do all those fancy words mean when they're all mashed together like that?
Means that we use diet and lifestyle and supplementation to get to the root causes of your symptoms or your health issues.
And how did you find yourself going down this path as a career choice?
Almost everyone who has become a functional medicine practitioner did it because they struggled with their own health issues or family members, and they were not getting the help they needed from conventional medicine. So same thing for myself. My mom was sick growing up. And back in the early 90s, nobody knew what fibromyalgia was, which is the condition that she has. So it really took a huge toll on our family. And I was always trying as a middle child, trying to solve her health issues. So I started studying natural health, and then I came down with my own autoimmune conditions in college and started applying that to myself and realized I was not going to get the help that I needed from my doctors to resolve it. They would help me manage it, but not resolve it. And that's really what I went on to do. So went back to school and got my degree in functional medicine.
Okay. So the thing I really wanted you to weigh in here today on is this idea that like you really have this choice of eating healthy or eating cheap. And I think that's actually a false choice. Like that's one of the main premises of what I want to talk about is like it's not just so black and white that you can have one or the other. But we'll talk about that more later. First, I want to touch on the idea of just the importance of planning. Like if you're going to eat well, unless you're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars a month, it's going to require some planning, right? So how does that look if somebody's doing it well?
Yeah, I mean, planning is probably just the best place to start because we all know if we go into the grocery store and we're hungry and we don't have a plan, we're just picking up everything that looks good. Oh, this is on sale and it's delicious. And we go home and now we don't really have these healthy things that we need in order to carry us through the week. During the week, you're already making 1,000 decisions, right? You're making decisions in work, with your family, with your money, and you just don't have anything left over for what am I going to eat. So you're just going to default to whatever's going to make you feel good in that moment and is quick and easy. So if you want to eat healthy, it's going to have to start with planning so that you don't have to make these decisions when you're already in decision burnout throughout the week. Make them on the weekend when you're a little bit more chill and you can look at the week ahead of you and say, okay, what am I going to have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? And you don't have to plan out every meal. Some meals you can, some dinners you might be able to say, let's just go out, or I'm really craving this thing, let's make that. But you want to maybe plan 80% of them, and breakfast and lunch are the ones that should pretty much always get planned. So, we don't all have the same like Monday through Friday work week, but just whenever you're going to be having your break time where you don't have a work day, take a look at what the next week is going to bring you and plan out what you're going to want to have for breakfast and lunch, especially. And maybe you have a little bit of variety with it. So if the last week you were putting strawberries on your oatmeal, maybe this week you're going to get peaches so that you have a little bit more nutrient density and rotation of nutrients that you're getting. So those are some like just easy tweaks that you can make to your planning, but you plan out what your meals are. And then, of course, you have to plan out how to get those meals. So you got to write out your grocery list. And then you have that with you when you're in the grocery store. I like to do it digitally. I don't write it down. So I have a to-do app that I can just check the boxes, which is always gratifying. And you just can get in and get out because you're like, you know exactly what you're doing and you're not wandering and again, trying to make decisions. So it actually frees up your brain by having planning, and you get more freedom when you have more structure, which sounds kind of odd, but it will allow you to stay on track with healthy eating.
Yeah. So like I said, I think it's a false choice of eat well or eat affordably. But let's pretend like it wasn't a false choice and you had to pick one or the other. I'm guessing you would probably make the case for spend a lot of money on food because that's going to be cheaper in the long run, right? So how does that work?
Yeah. So we have to, whenever we're looking at managing our wealth, right, you have to look at the long run. Like if you were just looking at, okay, well, the stock market has gone down, 2% this last quarter, and yet my savings account went up 1%, I should put all my money in savings, right? We don't do that though, because we have to look at that whole picture and the long run. Same thing with our food. So if we spend a little bit more money on our bill every week now, but it saves us from things like diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancer, autoimmune diseases, those are so much more expensive. Plus, you also have to look at quality of life and productivity. So if you are eating a more processed food diet, think, cereal for breakfast or bagel and orange juice for breakfast, sandwich, chips or cookie for lunch, and, some burger and fries for dinner or rice-a-roni or something like that. This is a processed food diet. It's going to be very low in nutrients and it'll be a little bit less costly. Really not a ton. When you add up the fact that you can eat from the gas station, a bag of chips for $2.50, a king size candy bar for $2.50, and a soda for $2. That $7 meal, you could get that very easily from Whole Foods for a lower cost. So it's not always as disparate as we think it is. But even if you are spending a little bit more, in the long run, you're going to actually be able to make more money and save more money on your healthcare. So in the end, it really might just be a wash. But even if it was a little bit more expensive and you had a higher quality of life, that seems like it would be worth it. So let me go into a few details because you're like, yeah, that would be worth it, but that's just theory, So the cool thing is that this stuff has been researched, and research makes it really clear that everything related to our well-being goes down the more processed our food is. So we are less happy, we are less energetic, we are less productive. If you're at work and you're depressed and you have a low mood and you're not feeling motivated and you don't have a lot of energy, you're probably not going to get as much done. If you are, your income is based off of how much work you do, whether that is because you own the business or you could get promoted, then you're actually going to be making less by eating cheaper. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So studies show that, I'm going to give you a few examples here. You take two groups and they went into a metabolic ward. So everything that they were eating was provided by the researchers.
A metabolic ward?
Yeah. A metabolic ward is where everything you're eating is provided by the researchers. So you're living basically like in a hospital, okay, and you don't have access to anything else. So they can really control your food. And they gave both of these groups the same macros, meaning same fats, carbs, and proteins, and said you can eat as much of these meals as you want. There was one group that was eating processed foods. The other group is whole foods. The processed foods group, they gained 1 pound of fat in 2 weeks and ate 500 calories more per day. The whole foods group lost 0.7 pounds in those 2 weeks. Eating the same macros, having the same access to the same amount of foods. So if you spend a little bit less per calorie, but you're eating more calories per day, that's kind of a wash.
Yeah.
And you're gaining weight and feeling like crap. So that ends up not working out. We also see in research that sweetened foods, this could be your ketchup and dressing. This can be, what you're drinking. This can just be your healthy granola in the morning. It doesn't just mean like eating donuts. But when you add sugar to a food, it's going to increase depression, even when the study controls for stressors. And so if everyone has the same level of stress, the people eating more added sugars are going to feel more depressed and have more inflammation, which means their body isn't working well and they have greater risk of health issues down the road. And then we have dyes, right? Whether it's like a big red soda or it's just like your birthday cake flavored granola bar, you're going to see food dyes and artificial food dyes in a lot of foods and beverages. And research shows that that increases ADHD in both children and adults. So again, how productive are you going to be? And also, how many good spending decisions are you going to make if you were more ADHD, right? You're going to be more impulsive. You will also see increases in asthma, eczema, hives, headaches, and migraines with food dyes. So if you have a headache or you have a migraine and your brain's all fuzzy, you're not going to be making great decisions and working very well. Food preservatives have been shown to do the same things, like sodium benzoate. And finally, another review of all the different research showed that a whole foods diet, so this means you're eating, nuts, seeds, beans, fruit, vegetables. You're not eating like tortillas and bread and chips and cookies. A whole foods diet decreased the risk of depression by 27%, whereas a processed meat diet, that's just, things like hot dogs, bacon, sausage, deli ham, that increased the risk of depression by 34%.
So let's dive in more to this idea of like cost per calorie versus cost per nutrient.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where a lot of people get hung up, is because
Yep.
Cost per calorie, you can get more calories cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
in terms of the actual nutrients you get out of the food, it's not that much more expensive
Right.
to eat well. So what are some practical examples of food that still gives you the good nutrients that you need, but aren't that expensive?
Yeah. Yep. Your calories are not actually what makes you feel great. It is the nutrients inside those calories. It's things like your vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, fiber, proteins. So it's those things that actually help you to feel good. So you could get all of your daily calories by drinking olive oil and drinking syrup, right? You would have all your calorie needs. Would you be able to function well? No, you wouldn't, because you're missing a whole ton of nutrients. So when we are looking at what we're spending, we're really looking at how much money am I paying to get my body the things that it needs in order to thrive. There's a reason why we eat a lot more when we're eating processed foods, because the body's not full yet because it knows it hasn't gotten all of its nutrients. How many times have you accidentally binged on too much roasted broccoli?
It's not a problem I have very often.
No, it's not. But like Doritos, yes, that's going to happen because the Doritos have so much less nutrients in there. So your body knows, like, hey, I haven't gotten my fiber yet. I haven't gotten my vitamins yet. It's going to want you to continue consuming until you've met your needs. And so you can meet your needs so quickly and easily with, chicken breast and pinto beans and peppers. You're going to feel a lot more satisfied and full, and you're going to feel better because you're getting all of those nutrients in. So some of the things that you can consume that are going to be really nutrient dense, regardless of the amount of calories that they have, and that are going to be lower cost than most of like the health foods that you're going to find in a store. First thing would be eating bulk foods. So you can go to the bulk section of a store, and especially places like Whole Foods and whatever kind of local like farmers market kind of place you have. That's a grocery store. They're going to have really good bulk choices there. And you can choose things like the nuts and seeds, and you can have them go on sale because they're going to be good for 3 to 6 months afterwards, and even longer if you store them in the fridge. So if you can get them when they're on sale and just get a whole bunch of them, you're not paying for all of that packaging and all the advertising that comes from that specific company. So they're going to be a lot lower cost per pound, right? So if you spend $5 on a bag of pecans and it's like a quarter pound, but you spend $10 on a bulk bag of pecans and it's a full pound, you just got a lot better of a deal, right? So the nuts, seeds, oats, rice, like the grains, those are always going to be a really good deal. You can get a lot for very low cost. Dried beans. So if you do the dried rather than the canned, you can get those for pennies. And beans have protein and antioxidants and minerals and fiber, and they're filling. Put some salsa or guac on them, and they're going to be tasty. And so dried beans are a great way to fill you up with nutrients and spend like no money on it. For proteins, those are the most expensive part of our diet. So if we want to get things like chicken or turkey or fish, the healthiest ones are going to be the ones that are organic or pasture raised or grass fed. But the good news is all of the toxins that the animal gets exposed to are in the fat. So if you purchase a really lean version of that meat, you're not going to be exposed to their toxins, and you didn't have to get organic. So things like chicken breasts rather than the thigh, or getting 99% lean ground turkey, that not only helps you to save on the organic, but also you get more of the protein. Like that's why you're buying that, right? So if you get a fattier cut of meat, a lot of what you're paying for is the fats from the animal, which aren't exactly the healthiest thing. So if you want to get more protein for less cost, you get the leanest version of it so that you are paying just for that protein. Does that make sense?
I don't think I ever knew that the toxins are in the fat. So good to know.
Yep.
So let's connect a couple of dots here. Back to the first thing you talked about, planning, and now connect that to buying in bulk, right? If we're going to buy in bulk, we have to have a plan, because if we buy too much and we didn't have a plan for it, now it's going bad before we've used it, and now we're back to wasting money, right? So all connected to the planning ahead side.
Yes. And one thing that can save you a little bit is getting frozen, because that can never go, it can go bad in a very long period of time, but you don't have to worry about using it in a short period of time. So if you're like a little nervous about the planning thing and you're like, I'm not sure I can actually eat all of these groceries in this length of time, maybe half of the foods that you buy are frozen. And then there isn't that pressure on you, because frozen foods oftentimes can have more nutrients in them than the fresh, because they were frozen close to when they were caught or picked. And that's going to lock those nutrients in versus being transferred at room temperature for a week to get to its final destination. It's lost nutrients during that whole time. Yeah. So you don't lose anything by getting frozen. And you can do that for, like if you wanted to add strawberries to your oatmeal this week, but you go to the grocery store and they're not on sale, you can just get the frozen bag and add that to your oatmeal. You can do the same thing for fish. Fresh fish is way more expensive than frozen fish or fish that was previously frozen and then thawed at the store. And for fish, the leanest fish out there, so if you're not able to afford getting Alaskan salmon or getting the wild caught fish, tilapia is very cheap and it's very lean. So it's very little fat in there. So again, you're not going to be, tilapia are like a dirty fish and they're exposed to all kinds of toxins when they're in their tanks, but you're not getting very much, you're getting like 1 gram of fat and tons of protein. And it's not as like water dense. So when you cook it, it's like so defeating when you cook this fish and then it's like this size, you're like, great, I have to eat 3 of those and now it's more expensive. But tilapia is not as water dense, so it's going to maintain its size. You don't have to eat as many fillets to fill up, and it is also very lean, so you don't have to worry as much about how it was raised.
Yeah, I have that same issue with cooking spinach. You fill up the whole pan with spinach, and it cooks down like the size of a quarter by the time.
Yes.
Well, last thing, what kind of practical tips can you leave us with, just in terms of maybe some of your own personal habits or just things that people can do to move the needle a little bit? If you're saying, look, I don't have the margin in my life to do real meal planning like I should. I know I should, but I'm not going to. Like, what are some small little practical tips that people can do?
Yeah, so easy things. But for me, I love my job. I love solving people's health issues. Even though I'm a nutritionist, I don't like spending time in the kitchen. Any time that I spend around meal planning and cooking my food is less time than I get to spend on researching and figuring out my patients' issues. So I like to automate things as much as possible. So to give you an example, I have 2 places that I get my groceries from, like 80% of them. Instacart is one and Vitacost is the other. So both of these are online. They're available to anyone in the United States. And you can, go through and choose all the items that you want, like at Instacart from one grocery store. And once you've purchased them, they will always live in your previous orders section. So when you click on that store, it'll say, do you want to see all the things you've ordered before? And I just say yes. And then I can just scroll through that, see what's on sale. So that helps you to save money. And then just very quickly, just add that to my cart, because it's something that I always purchase. So I'm not searching and typing in and getting results and then having to add it. At this point, once you get like 4 orders in of the stuff that you typically get, you're going to have almost everything you normally eat in that section. And then it's just one click for each one of your items. And you don't even have to do the premium, the Instacart membership, because if you just go pick up your food, it's free. So they don't charge you, a service fee or anything for using that. And at 𝑣itaCost, which is an online website owned by the people who own Kroger, they have a list function. So, that first time that you go on there, you have to look around. It's going to take some time. But then you can just add these things to your list. So you can just kind of make a list of favorites. And so now when I go to make my order of like my pantry items, because 𝑣itaCost has things at a lower cost than grocery stores, and they always have like a 10 or 20% off sale or coupon code you can use for your cart, I just go to my list and I just put those things over. So it can literally take like 4 minutes and just add them over to my cart, see what's on sale. It actually shows you in your list which ones have a coupon code. And so you can just save so much money, save so much time, and stay on track because you're not in the store and seeing all the things that you want to.
Yeah, you're not getting hit by the end caps on the aisles if you're not in the store, right? So
yes, exactly. And then the last tip here would be using meal templates. So this is not so much as strict as meal planning. So you want like that easier step. What I really like to have our patients do is choose just 2 types of meals that you would rotate between for breakfast and for lunch. So for example, for breakfast, we'll give a list like smoothies, smoothie bowls, yogurt parfaits, oatmeal, or chia pudding. And we'll ask our patients, which of those 2 are most appealing for you? So they say, okay, a yogurt parfait and an oatmeal. I'm like, okay, let's create our template. So our oatmeal template is going to be oatmeal plus either hemp seeds or pumpkin seeds for protein, and a cup of fruit, and then a topping like chocolate chips or coconut shreds. And then each week, they're not like, oh, what am I going to make for breakfast? It's just, okay, I'm going to do my oatmeal. I'm going to do hemp seeds this time because I did pumpkin last time. And last time I did blueberries. And now I'm going to do strawberries. And it sounds with the strawberries, the coconut sounds really good. And that's done. So when you have that template to go off of, you're like, these are the 2 meals that I really like. I'm going to eat them maybe 5 days a week. You can have variety every week without having to like start from scratch.
Yeah. Having sort of a base template makes a lot of sense. Well, if somebody wants to see more of what you're doing or read anything you've written, watch other videos with you, get in touch with you, how would they find you?
Sure. You can go to our website of our practice, which is VivaWiseFW.com, and that stands for Functional Wellness. On our website, we have a resources tab, and you can access our podcast, our YouTube, our blog posts, where you can get evidence-based information. All of our education that we use comes from the scientific literature, comes from research studies. So it's not going to just be our opinion or a bias or anything like that. We're going to just present the information to you, and then you can decide what to do with it.
And again, if you'd like more information about all of what we've talked about today, as well as some other things, check out the brochure in the show notes. Katie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Carolina Wealth Stewards doing business as Rosewood Wealth Management is a registered investment advisor in the state of North Carolina. The material presented is intended to be general information and should not be construed by any consumer as the rendering of personalized investment advice.